The Boston Red Sox are extending the afterlife of their championship season to include a holiday thank you tour. To tell us about the Gift of Sox campaign is our guest, Boston Red Sox historian Gordon Edes. Thank you very much for being with us, Gordon.
It's great to be here, Chris.
Gordon, what about this campaign? I mean, I've seen teams do victory laps and thank you things, but what's different about this one?
Yeah, it's something we've done now for the last several years. It's not strictly because we won the World Series, although you could probably argue that the World Series and a World Series title is about as good a gift as we can give our fans. But our marketing people, our social media people came up with this really creative initiative that we call the Gift of Sox, and we invite fans to go on Twitter and find that Boston Red Sox Twitter account and hashtag Gift of Sox and make a wish for something they might want, whether it's a player jersey or tickets to a game. You're really only limited by your imagination. And then in the course of this day, we're fanning out all over the community, making various appearances at schools, at police stations. We went to the BU Law Library a couple years ago, brought coffee and donuts, and whether it's bringing caps or gym equipment or baseball gloves, we try to find a way to say, hey, thanks a lot.
And I know one of the steps along the way here was a visit to a school in East Boston, the Patrick J. Kennedy School, I think. Right?
Exactly, and we sent two of our favorite or most popular ambassadors in Wally and Tessie who went there. That tends to jack up a crowd when they see our mascots, especially the kids. And that was a school where we did indeed give them new gym equipment, which is pretty cool.
When I see things like this, I'm almost ready to believe that it's just like when I was growing up, and I was a kid. I'd be waiting outside the parking lot outside Fenway Park trying to get an autograph. I mean, these kids, they just love this kind of contact with the team.
Yeah, and you know what? I think sports teams, and certainly our club, probably make a greater effort to interact with their fans. And when you and I were growing up, Chris, you were lucky probably if somebody stopped and signed an autograph. And now we've got players, we have a holiday caravan that took place earlier this week that a couple of our players visited various hospitals around the city. I think there's a level of excitement, and I think particularly this year because this is such a young team and such a likable team that I think our young fans really have no trouble relating.
Well, you pack the stands at Fenway Park every year, but when you look at ratings for the World Series nationwide, I'm starting to think, are people starting to tune out baseball?
We've been hearing that, and it's funny, if you did a little historical research, you could find people predicting the demise of baseball. You could go back 100 years and find editorials in the Sporting News projecting gloom and doom for the sport. But across many metrics, TV ratings are down across the board in all sports. We have a much more fractured television audience than say 30 years ago. With things like Netflix and Hulu and all of that. So. Our TV ratings this year on NESN for our games actually spiked up this year in a pretty significant number. So when you look at the attendance in the minor leagues, when you look at the fact that we put nearly 3 million folks into our seats in 2018, I think, didn't Mark Twain have a saying about his death being exaggerated? He's very much right here. I wouldn't count out baseball just yet.
I know they've been pretty passionate about the sport in some of these barbershops I've been to in Jamaica Plain. But you've been following this team for quite a while, and you've seen a few championship teams in your time. How does this one stack up?
And that's going to be a debate for the ages, I think, Chris, because when you look at what the 2018 team accomplished, winning a franchise record 108 games during the regular season, starting out 17-2 and really going wire to wire, winning the division by 8 games over the Yankees, even though the Yankees won 100 games. Then the remarkable October run in which we only lost 2 games on the road through the entire postseason, had to beat a 100-win team in the Yankees in the division series, beat a 100-win team and the defending World Series champions, the Houston Astros, in the League Championship Series, and then beating the other 2017 finalists, the Dodgers, in the World Series. I mean, you could make a case that this is the greatest team in Sox history. Now, the counter argument to that is, well, the 2004 team, if you went down player by player, matching rosters, you might decide that the 04 team was better. You had Hall of Famer in Pedro Martinez, an almost certain Hall of Famer in David Ortiz, borderline Hall of Famer in Curt Schilling. And that team also, by winning the World Series and ending the 86-year drought, I think you could argue they took the pressure off in all subsequent Red Sox teams. But if you remember, that 04 team did not win the division. They were a wild card team. They came within one pitch, one strike of being swept by the Yankees in the LCS. So, I think one day when Mookie and JD and Jackie Bradley Jr. and X are sitting at a table with Johnny Damon, David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, I think it's going to be a pretty lively discussion about which was the greatest team.
This team was less miraculous, but maybe more resourceful. And I guess maybe the pinnacle for a lot of people was Nathan Ivaldi in that long game that he ended up losing.
Yeah, isn't that the most striking aspect of that, Chris? We're talking about the one game in the World Series that the Red Sox lost, and yet what Nathan Evaldi did by going as deep into the night as he did, throwing 97 pitches in relief when initially he had been scheduled to start the next day. I mean, it kind of reflected, this ethos of hey, I'll do whatever is asked of me. You want me to pitch 6 innings until the middle of the night in relief, I'll do that. If you want me to go out, and all of our starting pitchers, remarkably, all pitched in relief during the postseason as well. That just doesn't happen. It's like Alex Cora invented a new role, the rover, I think is what he called it. So, and if you look back at the way Alex called one of his few team meetings of the entire season after that loss, and what he did was to bring Evaldi to the front of the room and just say, what a sacrifice this guy made for all of us, and it was noble. There was a certain nobility to it, and one player after another went up and gave him a heartfelt embrace. And I would make the case that Evaldi's performance served as the catalyst for what took place the next 2 days when we, of course, did beat the Dodgers and close out the World Series.
Well, of course, a lot of people say this is maybe up and down the roster, maybe one of the most superb teams they can remember. But you got salary caps to worry about. Some people probably have to go within a year or two. What about that?
Yeah, and it's very difficult under ordinary circumstances to repeat as World Series champions. I mean, the Yankees had that run at the end of the 90s where they won 4 in 5 years. And, we've pledged, most of the club, right now, most of the club that won in 2018 is going to be back in 2019. But you have to recognize that we had the highest payroll in Major League Baseball last season. I think we're already committed to $220 million in payroll already for 2019. As you reference, we have guys who are a year away from free agency. Rick Porcello, Xander Bogaerts, JD Martinez has an out in his contract. Chris Sale is coming up a year after that. So some hard decisions. You can't sign all of them. You simply can't. So there are some hard decisions facing Dave Dombrowski and ownership in the next 24 to 36 months, and even sooner. There's been a lot of speculation even this week as Dave is out at the winter meetings in Las Vegas that he's been entertaining offers for a number of players, including Porcello reportedly and Bogaerts. If I were a betting man, I think we're going to go into 2019 with pretty much our team intact. But on the other hand, if Dave gets an offer that he thinks keeps us competitive next season and gives us some roster flexibility going forward, I think he'll seriously entertain that.
Finally, Gordon, we should mention people want some more information about the gift of socks and what's coming up. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, best way is hop on Twitter, Boston Red Sox, hashtag gift of socks. If you go to the Boston Red Sox Facebook page, there's some videos explaining what gift of socks is all about. It's going on for the rest of the day. I'm on the late shift. I will have already done my gift of socks routine by the time this airs. But it's an event the fans shouldn't miss. And then they should also keep in mind Saturday, first day that single game tickets, Sox Packs tickets go on sale. 1-877 Red Sox 9, redsox.com, or make that stroll over to our ticket office. We'll be open.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Chris.
Gordon Edes from the Boston Red Sox.